We've talked a lot about video games today. Let's talk about something else for a little second. Chris Waters, you're here. You watched some movies over the weekend. I watched some movie films over the weekend. Peter Brown has been known to watch a movie that isn't anime.
I watched anime over the weekend.
The Oscars are on pretty soon. Nominations have come out, not without a little degree of controversy as well. We'll get to that later. But first of all, I want to talk about, this is kind of like what we talk about around the office when we're not talking about games, especially this time of year. So Oscar season, right? What are the movies that are nominated in Best Picture? What are the ones we think are good? I always find this interesting because the Oscars, especially Best Film, is always this weird mix of, oh yeah, of course, and what is that? Like, I've never heard of it before. So let's go down through the list and see which of these movies sort of lit us on fire. First one up, Mad Max Fury Road. George Miller's long time coming Mad Max sequel. You know, whenever you try and go back and make a new version of an old movie or of an old series, it's always, you know, super risky business. This is like easily the best Mad Max movie ever made.
It's so good.
Chris, what do you think of it?
I love that movie. I mean, I like to go to the movies. I don't do it terribly often, but I don't like. I'm not a dude who ever like watches a movie twice.
Right.
I don't go to the theater multiple times, and I don't own a lot of Blu-rays. I don't like ask for them for gifts or anything, but I asked for Mad Max this year for Fury Road because I was like, I need to see this movie again, and I need to be able to watch it again and again because it was just like so vivid and alive and breathtaking and like intriguing throughout like every frame. And it lit me on fire when I saw it in the theater, and I watched it over the holiday break again, and it's so good.
It's super dense. They always say the movies that make all that really big money, like that crazy Star Wars money, are ones that get off multiple viewing. And I saw this twice in the cinema as well. Peter, are you a fan of Mad Max?
I thought it was amazing. I mean, I saw Mad Max movies growing up as a kid, and they were always kind of this kitschy thing that you kept in the background. Like, oh yeah, remember those movies? This was like, guess what? This is what Mad Max should have been all along. And it was, as you said, dense. You took the words out of my mouth. Dense with characters, wonderful cinematography, wonderful sets. There was only a few things that bothered me, and even then, those like it just took another like scene change for me to forget all about it.
Right.
I thought it was amazing, and yeah, I've seen it multiple times, and I think it should just exist in isolation. I don't know that I want any more.
Yeah, well, it doesn't seem like you're going to get any.
Right, because
Miller subsequently come out and said that plans to do the two other ones are now not happening. But you know.
But I think this movie should exist on its own and just be this great, awesome little thing.
Yeah. Looking forward to showing this to my kids in 20 years from now. And saying, that's what they said the world would be like, and here we are. Next one up, looking back to the past, Brooklyn. I'm guessing I'm the only one that's seen this.
Danny, I haven't seen it.
Have you seen this?
What's Brooklyn?
Brooklyn is Saoirse Ronan, or Saoirse if you're an American reading her name. It's a story of this girl who, like a familiar tale for me, a girl who moves from actually a town that's about 20 miles from where I grew up in Wexford, moves to Brooklyn.
Isn't that all towns in Ireland are 20 miles?
20 miles away. It's her experience sort of moving to America, feeling homesick, going home, falling in love. And it was a wonderful, I really enjoyed this movie, not just because the creators of which, Amanda Posey and Finola Dwyer, shout out to the clan, not that clan. Not just because it's a super great Irish movie or a movie about Ireland in so many ways, but it's a really fascinating sort of timepiece. I love movies that really capture old times well. And I've actually never been to New York in my life, so I can't say that it captured New York particularly well. But life in Ireland and the Irish scenes for me was completely spot on to what I remember and what I remember people telling me about my parents and grandparents.
So this is like a 1900s?
Yes, this is like I want to say 50s.
Okay.
Sort of immigrant movie.
Post-war.
Yes.
Okay.
Around that time. Yeah, super good. I enjoyed it a lot. I was actually surprised to see it though, to be completely honest. On this, I thought it was sort of like just one of those good movies that won't get recognized outside of it. Mm-hmm. So moving on from that, I guess to something that I'm guessing we've all seen, The Martian.
Mm-hmm.
You seen it? All right, Peter. What do you think of The Martian? Matt Damon on a Mars. Spoilers. There's no Martians.
Maybe it was the character that I built in my head when I was reading the book, but Matt Damon's portrayal of the lead character, I can't remember his name now.
Johnny Martian.
It just really kind of rubbed me the wrong way.
All right.
I'm not getting Best Picture vibe from this film at all. I from the list, just looking at it before this, I didn't realize that it was nominated. I don't think it should be.
Yeah.
I thought his portrayal was not great. I thought the film didn't focus on enough things in the book that made it an interesting read for me,
right?
Which was the sort of thought processes that he went throughout. Okay, how do I fix things? How do I make this happen? Matt Damon was just like, I got it, no problem. Like, hey, did you see that now? So ding, ding, ding. Like, it's like, okay, I get it. You're this like charming, clever dude, but what about the struggle you're going through? Like, there were a couple mishaps that threw him off his, his comfy chair, but like really? Like, that's all the struggle you're going to go through during this entire journey? It just didn't hit me.
Chris, I remember you were talking about it, about how process really worked in that movie. How like it was a great movie about the scientific method as much as it was about the reality of what was happening.
Yeah,
that's why you liked that movie. Right?
I was drawn to that movie, and I hadn't read the book, so my perspective was a little different than Peter's. And I think that it is a movie that like. It's really cool that he's just like shoveling a bunch of poop and then putting a bunch of poop on the floor. Like
right.
That's not a heroic act, but this movie makes it feel like it. It makes it feel like, okay, like writing how many like chicken teriyaki dinners you got out on a whiteboard. Like that's a smart thing that a person does. And I think so much of science and so much of that kind of expertise that has led to the world that we live in so many ways is kind of boring, like when you look at it on the face of it, it's like a lot of like process work, a lot of grinding through. And so I think The Martian did a great job of distilling that in a way where it kind of honors those otherwise sort of seemingly mundane actions and elevates them because of the setting. And to me, the setting was one of the standouts. I mean, I'm not a guy who like looks at pictures that the rover sends back from Mars and is like, damn,
dude, I love that
cool.
stuff. That,
like
blows
I think
my
they
mind.
look cool, and I'm interested, like on a intellectual level. But the like vistas that the visual effects team created for The Martian made that planet look like fascinating and intriguing and foreboding and beautiful to me in a way that actual pictures of it haven't. Which is fine. It's movie magic, but like. I don't know. I felt that pull and I felt that connection with like our actual space efforts. Despite the fact that it ends on this like crazy rocket ship sequence in outer space. Like, oh my God, I'm going out to get him. Like, it does those action movie tropes and it falls into that in a way that I think ended up being off-putting for you.
I mean, a lot of people in the chat sort of echoing that as well. That like it's like I kind of feel the same way that it's a really great. Like I really enjoy watching it, but it just doesn't feel like it's like one of the 7 best movies of the year. But just like a great use case in terms of how to film that type of process. Like like wow, like how the hell did you make growing vegetables interesting in that way?
There were subtleties in the book that it just and I sound like such a like any dork.
Yeah,
like that. Anyone talking about any book made into a movie ever.
But they totally glossed.
It's legit.
They totally glossed over like the finer points of his journey to present this Matt Damon to you.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about a different book. Has anyone read or seen? Is it The Room or Room? It's Room.
It's Room.
The Room is the Tommy Wiseau thing. That's a different situation.
About The Room.
Throw forks at the screen. Have you read the book?
No, I heard about the book and was when it was getting a lot of press, and I was really intrigued by it. Yeah. That's why I wanted to see the movie, and I saw it yesterday actually.
Room. I've seen it as well,
but I have not read the book.
Okay. What was your experience of it? What you think? Without getting into spoilers again, because there's another one that.
Well, I don't know, because if you look at a trailer, like, do you consider what's shown in the trailer spoilers?
Maybe, because we're showing it right now.
Sure. All right. So yeah, you see in the trailer that like the premise of this movie is that there's this woman and her child, and she's been abducted. They are trapped in a room. Yeah. They can't get out. That's their whole world. And then they do get out. So the movie is about like the movie covers both scenarios, the before and the after. And oh man, is it so fascinating the way like, what if you had to raise a child, like this child, the only thing they know about the world is this room.
Yeah.
Like that's why the fact that the book and the movie are titled Room, it's like Earth.
Yes,
you don't
exactly.
Say, like, it's not like this is Earth. This is Room. Like this is all of existence.
Yeah.
And they talk the way that like you see through the mom and through the kid, the like world she's had to create, and then the way that he's interpreted the world and the way that he's built his world, like it's amazing.
And then how he has to deal with, oh no, it's like Plato's cave basically. It's like, oh, it's not just the shadows dancing on the wall. This is the world. And how does your brain compensate for that? How do you figure that out?
Yeah, once he's out, and then all of a sudden, like the world is more of a reality, and like he's squinting all the time, and that makes you think. There's a scene with a doctor, and you're like, oh my god, like yes, like this kid seems totally like normal and functional, but what if like he hasn't been exposed to germs or like varying degree, like there's only one source of natural light in his house.
And he thought that television was like this weird ethereal place where everything like it didn't exist, like it was all cartoons.
I thought that kid did such a fantastic job.
Yeah, great
throughout that whole movie. And I think Brie Larson, who also got the nominated for Best Actress, I think she did a good job. I feel like it's a kind of a soft nomination for Best Actress because what you really see, like the times that you really see, like she shows you her struggle in some ways, but then in the latter half of the movie where you're seeing the adjustment to the world outside, you're really seeing it through the kid's eyes.
Yeah.
A lot more.
I mean, the book was
than
mostly apparently told through the kid's eyes.
Yeah, and there are scenes where you hear his internal monologue. And so I think that like I'm not sure about that Best Actress nomination, but like for Best Picture, I think that it's like such a fascinating drama, such an intriguing story, and that comes from the adaptation. But yeah, awesome. that was a standout for me.
We need to get through a couple of more of these as well. Has anyone seen Bridge of Spies? No. Tom Hanks, Steven Spielberg. It's like, oh, okay, it's a Tom Hanks, Steven Spielberg movie. Of course, it's getting a nomination.
It kind of feels like that. My wife saw it and she was not a fan.
Right.
But like it does. I mean, I don't really know what it's about. I'm sure it's a perfectly fine drama,
Cold
and
War,
a perfectly
man.
fun, entertaining,
Cold
perfectly
War,
entertaining
spies,
movie. But
planes crashing, apparently. Ejecting from Tom Hanks, Castaway. He lands on it. No, he's all right. Don't worry about
Wilson gets promoted to general.
Let us know in the comments what you think of Bridge of Spies, then, since we don't have any experts on the panel here.
Brush that under the rug.
Gloss over that one, no problem.
A movie, I think, did you see over the weekend? The Revenant? You did a double bill of Room and Revenant.
I did.
That's a tough afternoon.
That was a real feel-good time. The old AMC.
I haven't seen The Revenant. I tried to catch it over the weekend and couldn't, unfortunately. You haven't seen it either, Peter, have you?
Oh, I've seen it.
Oh, you've seen it? Okay,
seen
perfect.
It.
Mary's outside. Last week was talking a lot about it as well. She was interested in it, but had sort of critiques as well. Peter, first of all, then, what did you think of The Revenant?
The easiest way for me to characterize it is that it's half an hour shorter than the cut of Hateful Eight that I saw.
Okay.
It felt at least an hour longer.
Well, okay.
I was less impressed with the film than I had hoped. The constant struggle that DiCaprio's character is going through begins to like not wear on you because he's struggling, but because it's like I feel like I just watched that scene. Like they changed the setting, they changed the problem he's dealing with. But it's still the same kind of issue. Like he's not getting to where he needs to get. And then I felt the resolution in the third act just came way too fast, and the payoff wasn't there for me. The thing I had been waiting for was a letdown.
Chris, you came away from it thinking like, oh, this is a really beautifully shot movie. But again, it
but
really
you're in the
set your
beautiful
fire.
wilds of Canada. I mean, like, it's not that hard to make that area seem beautiful. On that note, just a quick sidebar, like. I was looking at the nominees for Best Cinematography, which, of course, The Revenant is one. I watched another one of those this weekend, Sicario, which is about the border and the drug war between U.S. and Mexico.
Yes,
and
Benicio
like
del Toro
the cinematography and like you want to take like Banff National Park and make it look beautiful, no problem. You want to take the Mexican border at Juarez that has like shanty towns on one side, prefab houses on the other, and a big ugly ass steel wall in between, and make that look beautiful and like menacing but intriguing and like foreboding in all these wonderful ways. Sicario does that, and like it was a great watch and the cinematography was so strong.
Sadly not nominated for was Emily Blunt in that as well?
Yes, she was. Didn't get a whole lot of nominations. Most of them were production related. But back to The Revenant. I feel like this is one of those nominations where they're like, man, you guys went out into the snow and acted a lot. That must have been real hard.
Grunted a lot.
Here's your nomination. Like, Leo DiCaprio, his performance in that, I have no doubt that was very difficult for him. And no doubt that was taxing for him as an actor. But, like, he plays an animal throughout the whole thing.
Right.
He's not a human because he's so messed up that he is, like, debased to his basic survival instincts, which is fine. That's a certain kind of narrative. But a survival story, like, you need tension. For it to really hit home, and never did I doubt that he was going to survive until the last scene of the movie.
Okay, well,
come on,
No, seriously, halfway through.
No. That's not.
This is what, but that's
if you don't
like
need to
from
talk
the
about
get-go.
that.
You look at the movie trailer.
No, I don't. So like,
okay,
and you can't assume that.
I'm sorry.
You can't assume anyone else will.
All right.
Prove your point without talking about plot issues.
Fair enough. But it was all right. So this was my other problem with The Revenant, which was you were talking about how you like historical movies that create old times.
Feel like you're stepping back in time.
It does a fantastic job of creating this like wild west, the wild north between like American fur traders, French fur traders, Native Americans. Like it creates this incredible scene there and sets the stage, and all the Native American tribes are represented in diverse and interesting ways. Like there's a couple different factions at play. And then they like have this great chance to make this drama in this setting with a Native American lead character, and they cast Leo DiCaprio.
Right.
Like it just felt like it was almost there. Like it could have been something special, but it fell short in a few ways to me. And it's a monumental film in many ways, but like,
interesting. Another one that we're kind of lukewarm a bit on, the panel. We've got two more to get into. The Big Short. This is about the financial crisis, obviously, another movie about that. I believe it's adapted from the same writer who wrote Moneyball, based on a book as well. Anyone seen this at all? Big, lot of famous actors and actresses in this one.
The Big Short talk segment. This is going to be a short talk segment.
Great. All right. There you go. Let us know what you think about The Big Short. Whether Adam McKay should win Best Director or it gets Best Movie. Let us know in the comments below. And I guess the last movie, this is one that I watched recently. Michael Sugar's up for a win on this for Best Film. I hadn't really heard of it until quite recently. Spotlight. This is Michael Keaton and Friends.
Oh yeah.
And I guess the Boston Globe's reporting on the child molestation epidemic that was with the Catholic Church, stemming, I guess, from what was going on in Boston from their perspective, but then led to what was essentially a global problem. I didn't really know much about what was happening in Boston around that time because Ireland was going through the same thing in the years previous. And so at the end of the movie, there is a part where they show here are the cities in which this was a problem.
Hartford, Connecticut was on.
Oh, really?
The list, yeah.
And there was like a bunch, like I feel like somewhere close to a dozen Irish towns were in there as well, on all the cities they mentioned. Really, really great movie. Like obviously it's about something that is incredibly difficult and heartfelt. I think what's interesting about it is that it is predominantly told from the side of the media. Like they obviously interview victims and they talk to priests and whatnot, but it is told from the side of, we have this story, we're researching it, it's like it's happening around the same times as like these papers are shutting down, like 9/11 happens in the middle, so it doesn't happen. They don't have this sort of, it's not the right time to publish the story anymore. We're worried about someone else picking up the story. We need to get them. Like it's not, we're just reporting on a story. This is the story that we need to nail the church to the wall so that it doesn't happen again. So it's like, it's an incredible story. It's only told from that perspective, which I think is probably to its credit in a way. Like in that way, it becomes a little, like I enjoy it more, I think more because of being like involved somewhat in the press and whatnot. Like I enjoy that aspect of it at least. Mm-hmm. I think maybe other people who aren't interested in the process of press writing might think it's a little bit self-indulgent with the press, maybe a little bit, or it like focuses too much on that and not enough on the victims or the reality of the story perhaps. But it's great. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a fantastic. What you were saying about how when a movie does it right, it doesn't feel long. This movie is, I think it's 2 hours, 10, 15 minutes or something, and it breezed by. It was really wonderful. And it's great when you watch a movie and you feel like, holy shit. Like that's kind of like I'm glad I watched that because like this is something that we should not forget about. That like, this sort of stuff people got away with doing this awful shit for, let's say, centuries. Finally get called out, and it's been over a decade now, but lest we not forget important lessons. Those are the movies. So I guess the last question for you guys: The Big Short, Mad Max Fury Road. Josh Shaw has sent me a link. There are apparently Miller will be going back and making more Mad Max movies. Article post more recently. So we'll see about that.
So hey.
Thanks, Josh. The Big Short, Mad Max Fury Road, Brooklyn, The Martian, The Revenant, Bridge of Spies, Room, Spotlight. Peter, what gets your win?
Off that list, Mad Max.
All right.
Of the half of these that I've seen, Mad Max is my choice for sure.
And I really liked Spotlight a lot, but of the movies that I've watched here, I'd also say Mad Max Fury Road. Wouldn't it be fucking great if an action movie? Well, that just shows you how good that movie is
on many levels.
On so many, like the sort of the action, the cinematography, the shooting, the like the subtext, like everything about it is just like
They just needed less guitar guy. And then
more guitar guy.
Oh god.
He married one of the what's her name again? I forget the name of one of the wives. Whatever her name is. She was Elvis Presley's granddaughter. Is that right? They got married. Diddle dude. Diddle dude. That guy. Diddle dude.
I got a question for you about these nominees.
All right.
One that was not missing, that I feel was missing from the Best Picture nomination list.
Yeah.
Inside Out by Pixar.
Oh yeah, you think?
I think so.
I saw that at Pixar, and sorry, God, that's just the worst thing that I've ever said. I saw that at Pixar.
Danny, it's okay.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
I saw that. I meant to say I'm such a big Pixar fan and I love those movies. And I was really lucky that I got to go see it there.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I thought that was good. That was a good Pixar movie.
That was a good Pixar movie?
It didn't blow my mind.
Yeah. Oh my God. All right. So I watched this
let's not get too we're running a bit long on this.
Okay. But anyways, I think that the way that this movie is insightful and illuminating about the human condition and about human emotion and about the way emotions work inside of our brains is phenomenal. And I think that it's, the stories of teachers and psychiatrists using it to like help educate people warm my heart. But like I watched this with my wife and her mother, and we had lost my father-in-law in the past couple of years, and like this, like the way that movie deals with like grief and sadness, and it was like we discussed it afterwards, and like how true it was in our lives then, how it resonates with stuff that we encountered in our childhood. It just the writing and the way that they brought it to life, I thought was phenomenal and worthy of high praise.
We've already run over super long on this, but I think that we can't talk about this without also talking about what's happening in relation to, with not to say that like this is something we should only talk about on Martin Luther King weekend, but especially and with everything that's happening at the moment sort of around the country. Obviously there's a lot of eyes on the fact that this is a super white nominees list across the board.
Yep.
Jada Pinkett Smith and Spike Lee are going to not be attending the Oscars. The Academy's put out its own press release about this. We're three white guys here. We're not the people to be really talking about this, but let's just take a moment and say like, there were some really great movies starring African-American actors or some about African-American stories, which did not get highlighted this year. The ones that sort of stand out to me, I think we're looking at the moment, is Creed, which I did not see. A lot of people telling me that this is not just a great Rocky movie, but this is a great movie.
Yeah, it's true.
You seen it?
Yeah, I really liked it. Like the kind of like the old Mad Max films, the Rocky films for me were like this little joke that you'd like reference once in a while. Just go back to have a laugh.
Kind of hokey, but fun and great. And
this was like a solid like, kind of coming of age story for this kid who grew up like in the splendor of his father's success, figuring out who he was and finding his own success and defining that in his own terms. And then sort of linking back to this old series. And it did it in a way that wasn't really like ham-fisted. Like Rocky was this really like this dude with problems, like he's by the end of the movie, he's still not resolved his issues. And, but that's fine because Michael B. Jordan, the kid who played Adonis Creed, was so good like at his role. It's so believable. And so good as a companion, like with his girlfriend. I thought that was a really honest relationship. And it was interesting to see that blossom alongside this sort of like film that's based on fighting.
A couple of other movies that people have been pointing out, Beasts of No Nation, I haven't seen yet, but one I did see. As a massive NWA fan, I was actually kind of a little bit worried about this. I thought like, it's a kind of a weird story to try and tell, especially like you're going to use, ex-singers, like the person who's in the movie's son to players. It's just so much about Straight Outta Compton seemed like it wasn't going to work. Man, this was a fucking solid movie. I absolutely adored it. Chris, did you see it at all?
No, unfortunately.
Peter, have you seen it? It's super great. I watched it. I watched it on a plane on the way back from DC.
Was it a Pixar private jet, Dan?
Yeah, son of a bitch. And I thought it was amazing. Giamatti's in it, and it's got like all the actors in it playing. What it did actually was tell a side of that story that I didn't realize because I was so young when all that was happening, and I sort of was an NWA fan after the fact. Was that, man, they were so young. Like those dudes were like straight out of school. Like they were still teenagers. They were young men when that was happening. And I guess the sort of the movement that they lit didn't seem weird to them because that was the reality they were living in, but it seemed weird to the rest of the world.
Right.
So like it wasn't like they were some revolutionaries who were taking this dangerous idea and trying to force it on people. That was just the reality they lived in. and it seemed completely normal for them to talk about it. And I think as somebody who sort of only ever saw one side of that conversation through their music, to sort of see what I saw in this movie wasn't just an echo of their music, it was actually really putting context to what was happening during that time, which as someone, especially growing up in Ireland, who didn't really know a lot about civil rights movement or about the sort of Rodney King episodes and all that sort of stuff, definitely growing up, it was like a massive insight into that world. And it still kind of fucking sucks, right? That like we're watching, like Selma was another movie I watched recently. We're watching all these movies about these, these poignant times in the world where we've learned lessons, in the same way that like I was watching a movie about Catholic priests getting away with molesting, like movies about these times, but like literally it's still happening. Like when we're talking about like, it's like art and life, or just like, it's almost ridiculous that, we're in this situation, and I'm sure the Academy is full of a lot of, old Hollywood people. So you're talking predominantly Caucasian, predominantly male. So it's sort of a shame that we're not, like in the UK they have the MOBO Awards, which is like specifically to highlight people of color's art and music specifically. We don't, that's probably not the right way to go about doing this sort of stuff, but like you gotta feel for all these artists when they're making all this stuff and it doesn't get recognized just because people aren't in touch with it. Like they don't even see it.
It just seems to me like, we're all white dudes here, right?
Yeah.
We're used to seeing ourselves.
I'm whiter than all of you.
We're used to seeing ourselves represented in a variety of ways. There's not just like the one or two great white dude movies this year. Like there's a lot because such a lion's share of movies are made with white dudes in like really prominent roles. I think that when you hear people talking, especially women and people of color, talking about how representation matters to them and being represented in, on screen, in awards, how that's so vital and so important, you can't ignore that. You have to listen. You have to trust that is a real powerful thing, because it's not something I've ever struggled with, being able to look at a screen and see an image of myself or an image of how I might imagine myself.
It's like an alien concept.
Yeah. Right. It's just not so to me, I trust those people, and I trust that and I read what they say, and it's compelling and it's heartbreaking. And then you turn around and see Star Wars, and the two stars of that are a woman and a black guy, and they are fantastic. And sure, say what you will about Star Wars being the name associated with it, but like that movie is great because those two are great in it. Yeah. And like that's, money talks. All right, well, money is talking. So like, let's not use that argument anymore.
For sure. Biggest movie opening of all time. There you go. Boom. Let's, see what happens. Interesting. Was that snubbed, actually? Last point on this. Star Wars, since you bring it up.
Oh, for best film?
Yeah. It's a pretty good film.
I don't know. It's a really, it's a really great film, and I had a great time.
It's better than The Martian.
I would say yes.
Let us know in the comments if you think Star Wars The Force Awakens is better than The Martian. Let us know what you think about the nominees, what you think is going to win, and what do you think, some movies that maybe you liked that weren't mentioned at all in the nominations. Let us know in the comments below. All right. That ran on a little bit, but that was fun.
I mean, we took on a big topic. Let's be real.
That's true.
I was talking about the best movies of the year. There's a lot of movies.
I know. I was like saying, we'll only talk about best movies. We won't talk about like actors nominees or cinematography or anything. It'll be super short.
No problem. Whoops. And then I came in and I have like my whole nominee list here, and I'm scrolling back and forth. I'm like, oh yeah, sound editing. And
I like it. Great to have you here, though.
Last question: is Leo going to get his Best Actor award?
Wait, has he not gotten one before?
Not. No, he's never gotten an Oscar.
Really? Fuck, you should stop trying.
I feel like he shouldn't for this.
No,
I don't know, man.
He shouldn't.
Just like he didn't do a bad job in the movie by any stretch, but it just was like,
do The Beach too. There's your nomination. Beached. More beach hard with a vengeance.